So this morning I'm talking about leaving your old self behind. But before I do, I just wanted to mention that we are busily engaged in putting our annual conference together, which will be held March of next year. Tomorrow, the conference website is going live. So I suggest that you go to the White Mountain website, and you'll notice across the bottom of the website there's a banner that you can click on. It will take you into the whole schedule of the conference. We're going to have a spectacular conference. We have some beautiful speakers. One that comes to mind lives in Tokyo. He's been very involved with Agni Yoga for many years and has met some of the Rorks. And we also have a beautiful young woman from Moscow that's going to be talking about her experiences in Kulu and Nagar, and knew some of the Rorks. So, and that's just a couple of, we have about 20 speakers, and give or take. And it's just going to be a wonderful Zoom conference webinar. So I suggest that you go, it'll be live sometime tomorrow. I'm not sure when the website admin team is going to let it go live, but check in and register, and we'll be sending out notices between now and then about various elements of the conference. So I'm excited, and so much so I just wanted to bring it up this morning. So go to the White Mountain website and you'll find the banner at the bottom. Click on the banner and it will take you right into the conference website. So, leaving your old self behind. You know, I was thinking this is a very odd title, leaving your old self behind. So I've sort of changed it. How to regenerate your old self. How to regenerate your old self. So we don't really want to leave behind, leave ourselves behind, but to take who we are now into a new direction. Normally, people who are seeking a spiritual life begin that search from an inner prompting. They don't always recognize that the source of the inner prompting, but there is something going on within themselves that is inspiring or inciting them to make some changes. And typically, we look outside of ourselves and say, this isn't going right, I'm dissatisfied with this, I'm dissatisfied with that. But in fact, what is happening is that there is an inner discontent that's taking place, and this inner discontent is telling us that our outer life is no longer meeting our inner needs. When the inner self, this inner life, is disconnected or discontented, in fact, a couple of things are happening. The first major stage of this sense of being discontented is because what's called recapitulation. Our recapitulation of previous lifetimes has now come to an end, and now this soul, our unfolding human soul, is ready to move on. Say, let's get with it. Now we've done what we've needed to do, and now we want to move ahead. So, recapitulation has come to an end, and it is now time to proceed in a new direction. So even though the outer life seems to be the active participant of our inner discontent, it's actually just the opposite from that. It is the inner life that's saying, take a look outside of yourself and recognize that what's going on outside of yourself is not meeting your inner need any longer. That new direction is a spiritual direction, a direction our evolving soul wants to get underway. So this is a very important step for our life, for the rest of our life, and also for our future lives. Some people call this a call. You know, we have various calls. We even have inner life calls, subjective life calls. But this particular call is so dramatic and pivoting to our future that we really need to have ears, that clairaudience, that inner ear, that inner life to hear and to recognize that this is a spiritual calling. You know, this is so important. It's so important. So what happens is that what I've seen with people, I've recognized that their outer life is so noisy that they not only don't hear the call, because they can't hear it, they don't respond. And when this happens, then that discontent increases and increases increasingly. So where now they begin to try to fill in the causes of what they think the causes of that discontent is. And this is what leads people off into into wrong directions because of wrong decisions. They go drinking, they go partying, they go there, they go here, and nothing is going to fill that discontent because it's not a spiritual direction. So when you recognize that there is a discontent, whether you think it's from the outside or the inside, pay attention, be sensitive, be clairaudient, and respond to that call, because that call is coming from the true self, that capital S self, that is saying, now this part of your life has led you to where you are right now, but now it's time to take a more spiritual direction. And this spiritual direction will be significant not only to the rest of this life, but to your future lives as well. The discontent of the inner self is an inspiration igniting our whole being, a creative energy igniting our whole being from, like I said, this self, the capital S self, but it's also related to the monad. And because it's related to the monad, our archetypal self, it is part of the plan and purpose of our evolving soul. So I can't emphasize enough the importance of really listening. Let that clairaudience that you all have, we all have, be more sensitive and responsive, and don't let the outer noises of life, those deafening outer noises of life, keep you from hearing and responding. During some incarnation, during some life, we're going to be hit with that monadic impulse, which is like a shock, a call that says, it is now time to become more beautiful, more creative, more graceful, more understanding, and less self-centered, so that you can, from this point forward, live a more substantial and purposeful life. So we could say that this is a moment of soul regeneration. This is a moment It's like a feeling that you experience when you wake up early in the morning and you go outside and you see the sun rising above the horizon, and where for a moment you have this visual sense of infinity, of the continuity of life. It is so beautiful, and you feel so refreshed and energized and excited and inspired to make your life amazingly significant and purposeful. You are ready to begin. You are ready to become a co-worker with nature, with the continuing, all-giving life. So this moment means it is time to change your life, your personality life. This is the moment we are going to change our personality life. Now, the personality in the esoteric teaching means something different than being a Hollywood personality. Personality is a term in the teaching that means if you have a personality, these three bodies that make up your personality are integrated. The physical, emotional, mental bodies, these three bodies are so beautifully working together now. There's no conflict, there's no contradiction, there's no sour notes between the three bodies. They are so beautiful and working so wonderfully well together. They are now integrated. And because these three bodies are in a state of harmony with one another and integrated, it is now that you are called a personality. It means your physical body is, can I say this, in love with your emotional body? And your emotional body is responding with joy and a sense of fulfillment by responding to the inspirations coming from the mind to the emotion to your physical etheric body. When these three are working that well together, now you truly have a personality. You are truly an individual. If you are only emotions, if you are only mind, if everything is emotional or everything is mental, according to the teaching, you do not have a personality. So this is a science, the esoteric science of what a personality is and what it is not. When these three natures come together, they form a unit. Physical, emotional, mental bodies. When they come together, they form a unit, and they act and respond together as a unit. And in this reaction, in this response, there is a sensitivity that is extraordinary. It's not touchiness. And it's important to recognize this. It's important for me to let you know to recognize it, because there is such an extreme difference between being touchy. Don't tell me what to do. Look who I am. That's touchiness. Wow. Let me think more about that. That's response. See the difference? It's like when we hear this call, this moment, this awakening moment, and there's a response. We don't take the response, put it in the drawer, shut the drawer, and say, I'll pull you out when I have time. Saying, now something's going on in my life that's really, really important, and I want to know what it is. now we say that person has a personality. In a personality, these three natures do not conflict with each other. And if these personality elements do not conflict with one another, now you have a powerful personality. And what's so interesting is that people who do not have a powerful personality try to convince you they do. And they try to convince you that they do by imposing their will on us. Don't you know how powerful I am? Don't you recognize the importance of my position? You must hear when I tell you to do this and this and that and that. You must do it because I'm so powerful. When you are truly a personality, an integrated human being, a sensitive human being, those around and about you want to respond. See, it's like we don't have to be told, because we have a responsive mechanism, and that responsive mechanism is called intuition. Our physical brain may not have the education to understand what's going on, but the responsive brain, the intuitive brain, absolutely does. And the reason it absolutely does is because of the chalice and because of direct knowledge. So the substance of the chalice, the ability to understand and receive and record direct knowledge helps us to be responsive and understanding, not brain understanding, but intuitive understanding of what's being asked of us. Because everything is being registered as one note in the physical body, emotional astral body, mental body. It's really extraordinary to, when you get yourself to that point, to have the mechanism that will register that refinement of frequency, that refinement of energy. And such people are visionaries. Yeah, this is an interesting observation. When these three natures come together, it can be for the best of us all. Where the personality presents a united nature that demonstrates a radiating beauty because it is fused with the soul. Fused with the soul. But, and there's always a but, you know there's always going to be a but. There is also a danger. A danger that our personality, our physical, emotional, mental nature that is now responding and reacting as a unit, such a person acts like a dictator. The reason this happens is because they are not yet aligned with the archetype, with the radiance, with the knowledge of their future. In other words, an integrated personality is not the end-all, be-all. Okay, there has to be an alignment to the future, to the archetype of the purpose of your soul. And this alignment is called fusion with the higher mind, with the higher self. If we don't have that alignment, Such a person can be powerful, a powerful personality, but they'll be a dictator. They will be a dictator. And I'm not going to name the historical figures that we're all going to be thinking about at this moment. You know, that certainly can be identified that way. But it is somebody, even a nation, from a different perspective, that can force and impose themselves on us. The energy and force of such a person's united personality can be used to impose their own will on others and work for their self-interest and separative interests. So what's so interesting for me, because White Mountain is a discipleship group training, and so we have committees. These committees are not just to do work. There's an esoteric underlying impulse of why these committees have come together and formulated themselves. It's to learn how to work together as an organism, just the way our personalities are learning how to work together, physical, emotional, mental bodies, as an organism. So in a committee, we're taking that individual organism and now orchestrating ourselves in such a way that these committees become instrumental to the future of the purpose that the committee has formed. It's very interesting to recognize. But inevitably, somebody in the committee goes to that committee. Somebody inevitably in this committee says, I'm the boss. And things begin to break down until then a healing has to take place, reevaluation of the purpose and regeneration of the need takes place, and we start all over again. And that's what we do as individuals, life after life after life, incarnation after incarnation after incarnation, until we reach this point of what we call divine discontent and say, okay, I need to take a new direction, as an unfolding human soul, so that I can get off this wheel of rebirth. And now each incarnation is going to be so purposeful that we won't dread coming back into the planet and having to learn by trial and error and pain and suffering. Now we have real purpose. So we must put that old way of living behind us and let that moment where the divine discontent is going to push forward to dissolve the past so that the new personality can be formed. A new personality can be formed. Do you understand? I was concerned when I was thinking about this when I was driving over to the center this morning, that people are either going to think because of the title, I have nothing that I want to leave behind. I like who I am just the way I am now. Hopefully nobody's going to think that. And if you think that way, just go do something else, because the rest of the talk will be boring. Leave the past behind so that the true you will bloom, unfold, and follow in the rays of the sun. You are now going to live like the sun. You remember that moment when we wake up in the morning and we see the sun rising and feel the warmth of the rays, particularly during winter months? This is reminding us of infinity, the continuity of life. So now we're going to live like the sun, radiating rays of light for the future. There is a great king called Akbar. When he was 65 years old, he ordered 10,000 people to plant trees. Some people came to him and said, "Your Highness, these trees take 30 years just to grow 3 feet. And you are already 65. He said, "You self-seeking people." He said, "I'm not planting them for myself. I am planting them for future generations so that they can enjoy the trees. I am thinking about the future. Your soul loves you when you think about the future. The soul is the future. So let us plant ourselves like a great tree for the future. We need to find out, in order to plant the best tree, to discover what is limiting our growth and expansion. What is limiting our radio activity? So we need to be strong and humble enough to try to find something in our thinking to change about ourselves. If you cannot find something in your thinking to change, you're not going to grow. It is as simple as that. You are going to become stagnant. And rather than moving ahead, first what happens is that you become stagnant. In the process of becoming stagnant, it's like, well, this is Halloween. It's like a spooky tree, that has, I remember in Florida where we had, what was it called? Those, oh gosh, looked like webbing all over the trees. And that's what happens when we say, I don't need to change. But after the stagnancy sets in, decomposition takes place. And we lose our beauty, our radiance, our enthusiasm, and purpose for life. So you must find something in your thinking that is limiting your growth. Find the crack in your thinking that makes you think like that old limiting self. Anything that is limiting your thinking, limiting your cooperation with the universal energies and forces, with universal plans, with the plan of love and light and beauty, you are going to find that something and say, this is one thing I'm going to change. Because if I change this, I will start to grow. Now, what is so beautiful with this, if you are a strong, obstinate, independent, don't tell me what to do kind of person, I'm sure that doesn't describe anybody here, but I'm going to repeat this sentence because this is for you. This is one thing I am going to change, because if I change this, I will start to grow. The ego is the one that says everything is for me and I am the best. I am the highest. Who can be compared with me? And we have lots of individuals around the world today like this that's keeping humanity from moving forward. That's ego. That old self-serving, limited old self. It is holding us back. It has served our needs in the past, but it is now going to be regenerated so you can grow to the heights. where many unknown potentials are waiting to bloom. You no longer need the ego. Break that ego so that you can see that there are many beautiful people in the world. People you don't even know yet. People you don't even know you want to know yet. Because you're so comfortable at home in your own little nest and your little TV and your little iPad, and I have everything that I need. I don't put yourself there, because there are so many beautiful people in the world that can remind you of what you can be. So break that old vanity and ego that has been obscuring your inner spiritual radiating beauty, your radiating sun, so that you can see the true life. Hatred is an element of the old self. Among other strangling elements, like vanity and greed and fanaticism, and we're so tired of hearing those words. The thing is, we're not so tired of hearing them, we're not, because we haven't gotten rid of them yet. See, I believe if we had eliminated our vanity and greed and our fanaticism, then we wouldn't be bothered by hearing these words over and over and over again. Because vanity, greed, and fanaticism keeps us from regenerating ourselves so that our inner beauty can blossom like the unfolding petals of a lotus. Esoterically, hatred creates a wall between our soul and our personality. We are cut from light, from love, from beauty, even from logic and reasoning. This is what hatred does. Every time we hate, our consciousness, literally, our consciousness goes dim. That is why hate-filled people commit suicide or even think about committing suicide. Everything they do is against survival. If you have eyes to see what is happening in the world, everyone who is hating is doing something very foolish, something against the plan of the hierarchy of light, something against their vision. If you are doing something against your own survival, this is just plain foolish. This is proof that your consciousness is dimmed and that you can no longer see the right way for survival. Sometimes hearing these things is hurtful, but we must know about these things so that we can take who we are now into a new direction. You cannot grow unless you work on yourself and change yourself. For example, as you are working on your hatred, you can say, last year I was about 80% full of hatred. This year, and that you can take something specific, that you hated this, you hated that. And now next year you can say, I'm free from that hatred. You have made the most progress in your life, because progress is not accumulating knowledge and data. Progress is transformation of your life. I'm having to jump through my notes because I'm going to run out of time. It is so freeing to free yourself from that all-controlling ego that is so afraid to release it that we build on it and build on it and build on it until we are like what's called a Faraday cage. Nothing can come in and nothing can go out of who you truly are. So once we undergo this transformational process, we become free from that old involutionary pattern of self-preservation. We've overcome something very important because we've allowed ourselves now to progress. To change yourself, you need to observe yourself and then to know yourself. Observe yourself and then know yourself. You can be very frank with yourself. For example, once a week, stop what you are doing for a moment and say, I really want to look into myself and know exactly what I am. Maybe you find out that you are wasting money, energy, electricity, water, or other things. Then you might see that you are angry, fearful, jealous. To find out what you are going to change, you must know what you have that needs to change. This is a situation. In order to leave your old self behind, you are no longer going to accept things that limit your expansion. Anything physically, emotionally, mentally that is limiting you from expanding, from becoming more joyful, from becoming more loving, to become more healthy, you're going to throw it away. So let me talk a moment about habits. Helena Rourke, the founder of Agni Yoga, frequently talked about eliminating 3 or 4 of our worst habits. Now think about this. A habit is something that controls you. A habit is something that controls you. Every time you feel that someone or something is controlling you, that is a habit. Your spouse comes and says, "Here, take this wine or alcohol and drink it. We'll have so much fun together." You say, "But I don't want it." Well, take it. Drink it. That person is imposing themselves on you. Habits impose and control us. In your life, you can start now, this year, you can see what kind of habits you have. We're almost ready to go into next year. So we have 2 months left, November and December, to prepare ourselves, like create a plan. So starting January, we're going to start this progressive process to free our soul. If you do not find any habits that you want to fight against, then you are unconscious. Plain and simple. So find the habits because they are there. Unless you are blind, you will see them. Find the habits and stop them. The teaching mentions that we have some of the limitations that must be discarded from this old self. And one of them is the show-off personality. That show-off personality must be discarded. Another is thinking others are responsible for my situation. Don't you understand? It's not me. I am a victim. We've got to stop that thinking. Thinking others are responsible for my situation. That is your outworn personality that you're going to leave behind. Or, I can live at the expense of others' happiness. This kind of personality is prevalent all over the world. Another way of thinking that must be discarded from the old self is, inside is not important, outside is what is important. That kind of thinking is damaging your personality. And of course, then we have our old standard measures, and they are the ones that make us criticize others. Thinking and observation helps us come out of our old personality and start building a new one. Thinking and observation helps us come out of our old personality and frees us up to start building a new, more important, adequate, future self. Can we say that? Future self, for a future vision. The personality is our limitation, and it is our tool. If it does not improve, it degenerates because its essence is involutionary. The human soul continuously must keep it in the process of evolution. See what I'm saying? That's why we cannot become comfortable with who we are and what we are and where we are right now in this moment. The human soul continuously yearns to keep the personality in the process of evolution until it reaches what's called radioactivity at the third initiation. The physical, emotional, mental limitations, when broken, give us a chance to have and to take an initiation. An initiation is to shed the old and build the new. Shed the old and build the new. It takes courage, it takes daring. It takes a willingness to change and a willingness to adapt and a willingness to adjust because your entire being is undergoing regeneration. If this is done continuously, you eventually will see that you do not have any of the old self left. Only the soul is left. So detaching yourself from the old self, from the non-self, from things which you are not, you discover who you are really in essence. The way to grow is through discipline. Discipline means to put your personality life under a rhythm of improvement. The rhythm of improvement. Physical, emotional, mental, then all over again. For example, we have these opportunities month after month after month after month. We've been doing this for 39 years now, of every month. I don't even know how many months that makes. Of full moon meditations, right? 7 days, 3 days before, the day of, the 3 days after. Work on yourself. So if you don't want to do it the whole month, just the 7 days before, the day of, and the 3 days after of working on yourself to create and put your life under a rhythm of improvement. I'm going to close with this. This is a story by Socrates. Every time Socrates tried to discuss philosophy with his friends, his wife would become angry and say, "My goodness, philosophy again? Again philosophy?" Well, they lived together for 40 years. Socrates said, I owe something to this woman. That is why she is bugging me. but I am not going to be like her. I'm going to change her as much as possible, or use her nagging in such a way that I develop and unfold myself. Now, this is Socrates talking. This is not, the bum on the street, okay? He said, her existence assists me in developing myself and in paying my former habits. One day he was talking to one of his friends when his wife entered the room and told them that they were making way too much noise. So Socrates said, okay, let's go outside. They were outside and talking beneath a window when Socrates' wife emptied the wash water onto his head. And Socrates said, I knew that after thunder, rain always comes. I know. Look at how this wise man handled the situation. He knew that he would not have met his wife if he had not done something wrong to her in the past. The way she was the result of what Socrates had done to her in the past. He handled the situation in such a way that he did not create more karma. And he used the situation as a means to spiritual development. We could talk another 15 minutes about that. It's so amazing. Anyway, so let me close with this. We can grow through the teaching. We can grow through practicing the teaching. So this is this poem that we say, this mantra that we say every week and more. Lead us, O Lord, right? This is what the teaching, it broke this mantra down and said this. Lead us, O Lord, from darkness to light is mental. It's the mental level. From the unreal to the real is emotional. From death to immortality is physical. And from chaos to beauty is personality to the soul. Isn't that amazing? When I found that, wow, that's fantastic. Okay, so let us take who we are now into a new direction.